Hello everybody. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, wherever on the world you are located. Welcome to the Research in Germany online talk on bioeconomy. This is the first out of a row of 4 online talks which we will conduct in this week. Tomorrow we will deal with departmental research, which is something special within the German research landscape. On Wednesday we'll deal with women in science, their opportunities, and on Thursday we will focus on doing research in the humanities, which is one of the large research areas, of course. My name is Georg Krawitz. I'm head of the International Research Unit at the DAAD, and it's my pleasure to welcome 4 panelists this afternoon. I'm starting with ladies first, with Fernanda Martinelli. Fernanda is a junior researcher and PhD candidate at the University of Bonn's Center for Development Research, and she's at the same time a DAAD scholarship holder in our EPOS program. Fernanda, welcome. From the Research Center Jülich, which is part of the Helmholtz network, we have 2 panelists, Dr. Patrick Wagler and Dr. Roman Zimmermann. Both are in charge also of managing and steering the bioeconomy topic, which is the topic of the science year 2020 and 2021. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Dr. Bernhard Ellinger from the Fraunhofer Institute for Molecular Biology and Applied Ecology, the IME. IME is a strong partner for contract research in the areas of pharmaceuticals, medicine, chemicals, bioeconomy, and agriculture. Before we are getting the audience engaged, I would like to give some technical remarks. If you are watching us live today and you want to raise a question or bring up a topic, please use the panel on the side of the screen, put down your question in writing, and we will try to take as many questions and provide respective answers as possible. Before we start with our topic, bioeconomy, I would like to get a better feeling for the audience. We have prepared a little poll in this scenario, which is dealing with the current stage of academic career you're in. As you can see here, we're starting with undergraduate students, and it goes down to postdocs. And within a couple of seconds, I think we will get a couple of responses. Where are you currently in your academic career? Maybe we'll give it another 10 seconds or so time in order to have a more complete picture. So something like 30 people have answered. Anybody else who would like to fill in this information, which is of course anonymous? I think there is not coming in much more. So we have roughly 40% graduates and PhD students. And we have a small numbers of undergraduate students as well as postdoc, and 1 participant has given the answer other. So great. Maybe there will be a couple of others joining as well, and it's now my pleasure to get a little bit deeper into the topic of today, which is, as mentioned, bioeconomy. So bioeconomy is a strange word, isn't it? It has something of biology and it has something of economy, and it puts these things together. So my first question would be to ask all 4 of you briefly how to describe the term bioeconomy and what is so special about bioeconomy that it became the topic of the science year 2021 and 2020 and 2021. Who is happy to give an answer, please? Yeah, Roman, please, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first of all, I should say that I'm from Project Management Jülich, which is a funding agency in Germany, one of the larger funding agencies, and we work for the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, and we support them in implementing their national strategy on bioeconomy. And so I'm involved in bioeconomy for many years already. And I would say that it is, as you said, it has to do with biology and with economy, and it tries to combine both these two aspects. So it is an economy that is bio-based, so which is based on biological resources. This could be biomass, which is used to produce something, or it could be, let's say, microorganisms or enzymes or stuff like this, which are used in bio-based processes to produce new products, to make new innovations. Or it could also be biological knowledge, so our knowledge about life as such, about microorganisms, what are the molecular principles of life that are going on outside, where we more and more gain a deeper insight into, and this knowledge that we gain, that we can use this for making new innovations. And the overall aim of all this is to become more sustainable, so to get rid of fossil resources, to get rid of fossil fuels, to contribute to mitigating climate change and all things like this, the temperatures rising on the planet and so on. These are all really difficult tasks we somehow have to tackle, and bioeconomy could contribute to this by novel, bio-based, and thus sustainable innovations.
Mm-hmm. Great. Patrick, would you like to add on this from your perspective?
Let me summarize these things a little bit. From my point of view, for instance, industrial biotechnology is a driver of innovation in the transition from petroleum or coal-based industry to a bio-based economy, and that's why we say, as we call this, bioeconomy. Yeah? Bioeconomy is a vision of a sustainable bio-based economy and includes all areas that process and use biological resources.
Mm-hmm. Great. And maybe the two of you who are doing research currently in the field of bioeconomy, which is Bernhard and Fernanda. Fernanda, you are in Bonn, but you are coming from Brazil originally. So great that you made your way to Germany. Could you briefly describe what your PhD thesis is about in the field of bioeconomy?
Yes, thanks. Thanks, PhD, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. My research, it is in Brazil, you're right. I'm looking to the new biofuel policy that is implemented in the country. So biofuel and bioenergy is one of the subtopics of bioeconomy that Dr. Zimmermann and Dr. Wagner was talking about. And this new policy in Brazil, they wanted to, they started now in 2020, and they want to create a carbon market for biofuel producers. So biofuel producers would receive carbon credits, and they could trade in a market with the distributors, which is a really good idea. So my research is investigating if this is really able to happen in Brazil and how sustainable it will be. So what are the real benefits to sustainability or constraints that the policy will bring? And I'm using the SDG framework, that is the Sustainable Development Goals framework, to measure the sustainability that this policy will bring. And of course, I think this is also the role of research, is to try to improve and give advice on how the policy can improve during the time and different scenarios of sustainability, so we can really reach more benefits for the entire society, even based on this carbon credits for the biofuel producers. So in a nutshell, this is my research.
So it's very much focusing on social sciences, but on the basis of natural sciences. Okay,
yes,
I see.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a biologist, but I'm still looking for into the political framework. Yes, and the governance of bioeconomy in Brazil, because in the end, bioeconomy will also influence on how the deforestation rate will go on in Brazil. You know, how to avoid illegal deforestation through the bioenergy production. So I think everything is connected. And in the end, my PhD it also has this basis of trying to connect social and environment and economic dimensions into one. So I'm very happy that we are talking about bioeconomy here, because I think it also includes these three dimensions.
Yes, thank you. Bernd, you're a researcher by yourself in the field of bioeconomy. What is your focus subject, or what is the topic you are focusing currently on? Could you explain to our audience, please?
Yes, yes. So currently we're working on quite a different number of projects. So many of them in the area of biotechnology, where we work on enzymes, where we try to upcycle material or use material in, so to say, cascade approaches, where we first get one product and then another and then a third one. But the IME in general is quite a large institute, and for example, we have a group in Münster who is currently working on developing tires from dandelion. So these are really, so to say, new products where you don't need the natural rubber anymore, but it's all based on dandelion rubber, so to say. So it's quite a big area where we're working in, but quite a bit of it is biotechnology in the broader sense.
Mm-hmm. When we were discussing the topic before our online talk, I think it was you, Roman, who said 60 countries currently have it on the political agenda to deal with bioeconomy in a more intensive way. But nonetheless, I think having the fact that it is the topic of the Science Year 2020 and 2021 means that for Germany in particular, it is a really, really important subject, and this is the reason why I think it has been chosen. Could you possibly explain a little bit about the series of these science years? What is the background for it? Why is it all happening, and why is it funded by our Federal Ministry of Education and Research?
Yeah, so the science years, they have a long tradition already, and so it started in the year 2000, I think, and the first science year was on physics, and then it was continued through a decade where different scientific disciplines were chosen as topic for the respective science year. And then it changed a bit, or they changed topics a bit, and they moved over to more, let's say, research fields that have a societal impact. Like they started, I think, with the future of energy in 2011, where they switched topics a bit, and then it moved on to the life science area, and so recent years had to do with the future of work in 2018 and artificial intelligence, and now it's the bioeconomy this year, and also in 2021, as you said. And I think it is, so the science years as such, they have to do with bringing science closer to people. Because to many people outside, I think we have all experienced that for them, science somehow is like a black box. So there are scientists that do something, so they push the frontiers of what we know. They come out with novel innovations, with new knowledge about something that has not been there before, that might change our life in some respect. Because it's absolutely new, and sometimes they are afraid of it because they don't know what's going on and what these people are doing. And the science years aim at bringing science more to the people. So it's a lot of activities that go on during the science year. Everybody is involved to take part in it, and there are different events going on, and you can have visit museums and have different subjects where you can learn more about bioeconomy, whether this is in a museum or whether this is on a ship that is cruising down rivers and stops at different points. And you can learn about what is going on in bioeconomy research in particular. And you can get involved. You can discuss about different aspects of bioeconomy just to learn more about this special field of research, and to for yourself get a better basis upon which you decide whether you find innovations in bioeconomy are worth being pursued, or whether they should not be invented or should not be let's say brought to the market. I mean, it's a way of maybe enhancing the acceptability of innovations that are that come up in bioeconomy. I would say.
Great, yes. I had a look at the initiatives that are happening. There is, for instance, something next year which involves schools and kids who are dealing with soil quality, and what does soil mean as one of the very basic, let's say, substances that we live on, and plants need to grow, and animals move on, etc., etc. So it's on one hand, it's a very, very research based topic, but on the other hand, there's also happening a lot that brings the topic into the wider public, to people who are not doing research by themselves. I see. Would anybody like to add anything on what was just said by Roman? If this is, yes, Bernd, please.
There's actually not much to add in terms of there's missing something, but I would like to stress the importance. So as you really try to tackle the new big challenges, you try to preserve the biodiversity, you try to work on climate change or against climate change, you really have to get the people on board. And it is quite complicated in the current environment to start really disruptive processes, so to say. So we need an understanding in the population, but we also need a sort of lobbying from the politics side. So it's really important that this year is, or actually both years, this and the next, are the bioeconomy years, so to say.
I remember there was a slogan by some activists who said, "You may have a plan B, but there is no planet B." So we have to be very, very careful on how we deal with the natural environment that we all depend on. And bioeconomy seems to try to find a way to harmonize or bring things together that on at first sight don't seem to have very much in common, which is economy on one hand and all things comprising biology on the other one. Yes, great. I just got a couple of questions, and I would like to pick one which comes from Meshach Simeon. He is asking, how is bioeconomy different from biotechnology, or are the terms synonymously used? Who would like to give an answer to this, if possible? Roman, please.
Yes, maybe I could start with something. I would say, so in our tradition, so as us supporting the Federal Ministry of Education and Research in implementing their strategies, we started from biotechnology in the beginning. So let's say from the year 2000 on until 2010, we were funding into biotechnology. But then the ministry decided to switch topics a bit and switch from a rather technology-based funding into a more mission-oriented funding. And so I would say that still biotechnology is the core business, so to speak, or is one central column of bioeconomy, at least in Germany. And a lot of research projects that we fund are still biotechnological projects. That's for sure. But on the other hand, there are also other sciences that come into play. So if we think about what Ms. Martinelli said, so we have to talk about societal impacts of research in bioeconomy or about sustainable innovations that these might have. So it's something that or bioeconomy is something that ideally leads to a transformation of our economy into a bio-based economy, and this can only happen if you have the people on board, as Mr. Ellinger also said. So it's not only about technology and about research and about novel technical innovations. It also has to do a lot to do with society, with communication, with political sciences and stuff, with finding conflicting goals that might show up in the future. So which way should we go to reach a bioeconomy? How should we prioritize topics and so on? It has to do with all that too. So biotechnology is a very important part, but there's lots of more subjects about bioeconomy that we don't have to forget.
Okay, I see. Would one of the other participants in our panel like to add on this? If that's not the case, I may grab another question which was coming up. It's from Kwame Amabdu. He says, moving from fossil economy into bioeconomy, doesn't it mean necessarily that we make more use of biological resources in the end, even if it's more, let's say, more done in a more reasonable way? So it's not the resources are the limiting factor, even if we are doing it in a bioeconomy way. What would you answer somebody who is putting a little bit of criticism into this question? Yeah, I think Bernard. Yeah.
If I may answer, at least I start. So we had this discussion quite a while ago when we started using crops to make biofuels and energies out of that, and I think we moved forward in that respect, that we are now using materials which are currently side stream or waste products. So this is the first idea to use, because there's actually quite loads of material which we are not using from the agricultural side. And the other thing is that you can think of cascade fermentation, cascade uses where you have more than one product coming out of a raw material, which is also not what's currently happening in the industry. So this is actually where you can have a look. So it's more recycling, it's more use of alternative side streams, it's these kind of things which are currently
one of the substances that is mentioned quite prominently in the bioeconomy activities is algae. So one could say algae have not been at the forehand of resources that have been used, but they may be something that can be used without destroying natural environments, very, very generally speaking. Would one of the other panelists like to answer or give something in addition to what Bernard has said? Fernanda, please.
Yes, I also want to build up on what Ms. Erlinger said, because in the end, bioeconomy also includes the concept of circular economy on the end of trying to save more resources, and not only based on the natural resources. So there is a saying that says that bioeconomy is the what, so it's the final goal, and actually it's the opposite. Sorry, like, so circular economy is it's how we are gonna end up on the bioeconomy. So we have to use the natural resources in a more sustainable way to then find the circular economy. So yeah, I think these two concepts are somehow connected.
Okay. Oman, please.
Yeah, and maybe I would like to add that, or what I find a little bit funny is that people used to live, so in ancient times, people used to live in a complete bioeconomy. So before, let's say, the year 1750, so before the Industrial Revolution, and where people had not learned to use fossil resources for their industrial production processes. In principle, people were living in a bioeconomy, and so we don't want to restore this ancient state nowadays, but we want to retransform again into a bioeconomy with all the knowledge and all the expertise we have nowadays. And so this is the new way, I would say.
Yeah, from my point of view, it's also important that we should provide also some funding resources in emerging research, like for instance the digitalization and simulation techniques for biotechnological process. For instance, this area of machine learning for protein folding, for instance, or that the miniaturization and analytical techniques to solve biotechnology problems, and or integrate smart and autonomous sensors in the production process. And these are the aspects what we fund in That's why.
So it's about sometimes looking at very basic things and combine them at the other end on very sophisticated instruments and processes in order to make the most out of it. Okay, I see. Very basic question maybe on behalf of our audience. If somebody is very much interested in doing a research project in the area of bioeconomy, are there certain institutions or areas where he or she can find a kind of concentration of research happening in this field? Or is it very broadly spread all over the various research institutions, universities, etc.? Is there any kind of advice that you may have at hand? So how to get in touch, for instance, with a professor who is offering a PhD position. Roman, please.
Yeah, I would say that so bioeconomy, it combines a lot of different disciplines. So in natural sciences, in societal, political sciences. So there are many, I would say, anchor points from which to enter into a bioeconomy. So and I think it's a mixture of both. So since there are so many different disciplines that somehow have to do with bioeconomy or contribute to bioeconomy, there are a lot of universities in principle, but also non-university research organizations or institutions that somehow do research that contributes to bioeconomy. And so it's a rather widespread field, I would say, in Germany, but on the other hand, we have clusters as well, for sure. So we already funded some biotechnology clusters, for instance, in Bavaria or North Rhine-Westphalia, or we have other funding instruments which help to create new structures and to find new cooperations in bioeconomy. So we have a funding initiative. It's called the Innovationsräume, so rooms for innovation. These are larger clusters and collaborations. So there are a lot of, I would say, little hotspots for bioeconomy. And I mean, it depends on what you would like to study, where your field of expertise is. And just to find out which institution might be the right one for you in Germany, and try to get into contact. And I could recommend, for instance, as a first step, to look at a website which is called Bioeconomy.de. So it's the German term for bioeconomy, for sure. And so maybe we can write that in the chat. And on that website, for instance, you can find a landscape, or you can find a map of Germany with different institutions that are marked. You can click on them and you can see what they're doing, where they are located, and this might help you in a first step to orientate yourself and find a starting point for you. Mm-hmm. Maybe as one approach.
Mm-hmm. Fernanda, please.
Yes, I totally agree, and I also think in a more practical way, I would say there are so many events happening this year that have happened this year about bioeconomy. So it's really useful if you can screen international conference or even like the global bioeconomy summit that happened this year, and then you see what are the research institutions that are leading the discussion, and they are somehow presenting their work, and then you can just go into the project website of them and see if there are any positions open. At least like it's based on my experience. That's how I started to look into bioeconomy. And also I agree with Mr. Zimmerman that bioeconomy is such a broad topic. So I think you should just choose the topic that you are interested on, like under bioeconomy, and then try to focus on that. Having a idea of the research is going to be easier to reach out to the researchers. So yeah, I would say screen the event, open a conversation with the researchers that are doing that. And yes, don't be shy on sending emails and approaching and trying to seek for opportunities, because I'm sure that here in Germany there are so many opportunities in bioeconomy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. If we look at the field as such, is it still on the level of doing basic research with some applied research fields, or has it already entered the, let's say, the private industry? Because we're talking about bioeconomy, and where economy is happening, companies want to earn money. So is there also bioeconomy research happening in private companies, or is it more at the universities and research institution side as yet, and may change in the future? Yeah, perfect.
Both, I would say, but there are two instruments where I also be involved in, and on the one hand, I agree with you, Georg. If you talk about economy as well as bioeconomy, you talk about the industry. That means small and medium-sized enterprises, but also large companies, and in order to improve the innovation potential of the small and medium-sized enterprises in the field of bioeconomy research and sustainable management, the Ministry of Research and Education launched a new national funding program, and in May 2020 this year, and it's called KMU Innovativ Bioeconomy. I can send this link to all of us, and yeah, and who is supported? In general, individual or joint projects by small and medium-sized enterprise with a funding rate for the industry up to 50%, and but also project of collaborative research between small and medium-sized enterprises and universities or research institutions, and as well also collaborative research projects involving also large companies. But these large companies can receive funding up to only 25% of the cost. And the second one, the second industry or the second instrument of funding is, for instance, to develop new products for bioeconomy, and that's why the Ministry of Education and Research has launched an idea competition. It's called New Products for the Bioeconomy, and this is interesting, for instance, for universities where the ideas is growing, and then they can develop these ideas step by step into a new product. Yeah, this funding process is here in two stages. You have the phase one, this is the exploratory phase, and these are individual projects of universities and non-university research and science institutes based in Germany, and there are up to 65,000 euros will be granted for the exploratory phase, and then maybe, for example, expenses for personal consumables, travel, patenting costs, and so on. And the duration of this phase is generally 12 months, and then it goes to phase two, a feasibility phase, and then this involved or contains joint projects of universities and non-university institutions for technology transfer with other companies. And the project duration is usually 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When it comes to innovation out of small and medium-sized companies, I'm in particular thinking of the Fraunhofer Institution, which will not be a wonder to you, Bernhard, because I think Fraunhofer is particularly active in the field to find partners in industry that are mostly small and medium-sized, but have a high potential for innovation, but cannot do the research by themselves. If you look at the companies that are active in bioeconomy right now, is there a kind of field where it works pretty well and maybe others that are still more, let's say, behind, are still more working in the basic research field? So where has bioeconomy had the largest impact when we look at the economic side of companies' activities?
Yeah, so the largest impact, I would say, is currently in the small and medium-sized enterprises, because the big companies, they all have bioeconomy programs, and they have sustainability programs, and working on circular economy and things like that. But the small companies are the ones which are more driven by innovation, and which are, so to say, early adopters of new technology and more willing to directly test something and try something out. And this is where we have, so to say, the biggest impact. So, for example, with the algae you mentioned in the beginning, there's a lemonade based on algae. There is in the area of nutraceuticals, there's something in creams and things like that. So these are all small products coming from small companies. But yeah, it's obviously more complicated to really, if you're a big company like BASF, to really change your product cycles and switch everything to biotechnology. So currently we have the most impact in
There was a question coming from the audience, particularly on your research field. So what are you working currently on? What is the hottest topic, so to say, at your institute, the IME? Bernhard.
Yeah, currently, due to Corona, it switched quite a bit. So we're quite heavily working on Corona research right now. But before that, we were working in the area of enzyme biotechnology, of developing new enzymes, optimizing them, identifying them. So this was one of our main goals. And also, there's another question about the lignocellulosic biorefinery. So this was also an area where we're quite active. So because currently you have to do a process called steam explosion, because the cellulosic matrix is quite hard to digest for enzymes. So what you do in the end is you basically autoclave your raw material, and at one point you simply open up the lid, and the high pressure at that moment ruptures the biological material. And this is really energy and water consuming, because you have to use diluted acids and bases, and you have to cook everything. So this is an area where biotechnology and where new enzymes can really make a difference.
You were just mentioning Corona. I think Corona has changed for all of us the scenery, but it's encouraging to see that bioeconomy, maybe the format in many of the activities has changed, but there are still a lot of things are happening and going on. And I think bioeconomy will also last, as I've just mentioned, for some time in the year to come as well, because the topic is so important and is so large that it is, I think, a good decision to take it into the next year as well. Yeah. Any comments on what was just said recently by one of our participants? So, Roman, please, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that because you were asking maybe 2 questions ago whether bioeconomy is already, or what impact does it have already? Does it has it brought about new innovations, and what about the market of bioeconomy innovations and so on? And I just wanted to add that I think a lot is going on also if it relates to basic research, but also if it relates to technology transfer. And for me, I have the feeling like there are a lot of little innovations that show the potential of bioeconomy, such as tires made from dandelion, as Mr. Ellinger said, or that in principle you can use carbon dioxide to make biofuels, or You can use maybe bacteria to make bricks, but not by baking them, but by just inoculating them in a solution, and that solidifies and gives rise to bricks, which you can use to build houses. So this is totally new perspectives, but I think the real breakthrough still is not there. So it's not like this one big innovation, that smartphone of bioeconomy, which changes everything or lets everything get on rolling, and so it develops on its own. This is maybe not the case yet. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, you have to see that you have new knowledge, but you also can use traditional knowledge to do bioeconomy. So it also depends on your your basis that you start from. So bioeconomy also has to do with regional differences. So whether you have a lot of biomass like in Brazil, or you don't have so much biological resources like in Germany, and you have different starting points. And so, but integrated over everything, I would say that bioeconomy is developing, and we will see the breakthrough, but it's not there yet, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Or it may differ from area to area. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, all of us are interested in international cooperation, and I'm just wondering how much international cooperation is really happening. That may be interesting for our audience, because we have researchers in our audience who may work in a field that is related to bioeconomy or is bioeconomy as such, and are looking for partnerships in Germany. So what is the role of international cooperation in bioeconomy, maybe at large, or maybe on the basis of a example that you may have at hand? Or is it just a kind of German scenario that we are looking at in this online talk? Anna, please.
Maybe I start. Dr. Zimmermann can directly jump in on that, I think, because there's actually quite a few international things going on in the bioeconomy, and one of the best known examples is Bioeconomy International. So this is an annual BMBF funded scheme where you can apply, and this strictly involves a German partner and an international partner, and there's quite a focus on South America, but also on Asia. There are other Asian projects around, other Asian funding schemes around. So actually the bioeconomy field is quite international.
Yeah. Roman,
yes,
please.
I can continue, as Mr. Ellinger said. So I think it's really worthwhile also looking then at the new Horizon Europe program of the European Union, for instance. They have loads of funding opportunities which are worth being checked out. Bioeconomy International is a funding initiative by the BMBF, as Mr. Ellinger said. It's one of these measures that we also implement. There are also others, so different so-called ERA networks, so where different countries work together on one topic, like on biotechnology, on blue bioeconomy, and so on. So I think there is a lot going on there too. Yeah, and I think it's, yeah, you just have to scan the research landscape and also the funding landscape. There are lots of opportunities, I would say, where you can yeah, find something. Maybe I can also say that it is, so there is a plan from the BMBF that they will yeah, open a call for young research groups on bioeconomy in the next year. This is still the plan, so I can't tell you about the details yet, but this is something that probably will come with the opening of the second part of the science year for bioeconomy. And so there will be funding opportunities for young researchers who want to open their own research groups. And we also focus on people who would like to come back to Germany or come to Germany to open their own research group and to establish their own research in the field of bioeconomy. So on the one hand, it will be focused on research topics like Ms. Martinelli told us. So it's about bioeconomy and society as such, I would say. So in this field, so about political sciences, social sciences, societal impacts of bioeconomy, and how this could contribute to the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. So this will be the overall topic. And there will be another funding opportunity, presumably in the field of natural sciences, biotechnology, with two perspectives. So the one of going to the direction of an academic career, but also another one which opens up the perspective of maybe setting up your own company in the end. So being more in the field of business and entrepreneurship. So there might be different funding opportunities, especially for young researchers who plan to come to Germany or come back to Germany. So it's not in the European field. It will be located in Germany, but also it's also addressed to people from foreign countries.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just thinking of sometimes it's easier to understand what we are talking about if you have a very, very precise example at hand. Let's say the one product or the one process that has been developed recently. Is there something one shouldn't miss out when dealing with bioeconomy? Something very, very clear. So let's say we have a brick made of algae and we can build reasonably priced houses in the southern hemisphere without going into concrete or other materials, just as an example. Is there anything you have in mind? Roman, please, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this hasn't come true, as we said already. Bioeconomy still, to some extent, is a vision, yeah, right. But as I said, so there are approaches how we could use carbon dioxide as the starting point for making biofuels or other products. Maybe this is often a question of energy. How much energy do you have to put into a process to make something, and is it worth then, or is it a process that is that could survive on the market, I would say, because it has to be beneficial in the end. But I think we are on that track, and I hope that one day we will be able to have a market for carbon dioxide-based products, and this could really change the game. So it could lead to a paradigm change somehow, because what is waste now and causes a lot of trouble nowadays, namely the rising carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, might one day change. This might be far away, but and it's not that one special product that is on the market already, which one everybody relates to. Yeah, this was the first one that uses carbon dioxide, but this is maybe something that opens up a picture of what bioeconomy could be one day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see. From the other panelists, Fernanda, yes, please.
Yes, hi. In the more traditional way, I would say that in Brazil, these biofuel technologies are advancing really fast, especially how to make the residuals, for example, from sugarcane or from soybeans, and how to make the residuals to produce energy over there. So of course, this is the second generation biofuels. And I think bioeconomy has an important role on developing technologies on that. So the policy that I'm studying, they are designed to reward the producers that are that are using these residuals as a source of energy and then emitting less carbon dioxide. So I think bioeconomy is also in this in the development of technology inside of the industrial process to become more efficient. So I would say, yeah, in the biofuel, it would be like the second generation, and biofuel.
So there's a lot of space available for encouraged researchers to do their projects and to contribute to this development. I think that's something one could say. We're not yet at the end of our online talk, but nonetheless, is there anything that you would like to hand over to our audience? Is there anything like a key message, take-home message that each of you would like to share with us? Who would like to say something or conclude what we have just discussed over the last something like 50 minutes? Roman, yes, please. Go first.
Yeah, yes, thanks. So since, I mean, I'm not a researcher anymore, but I used to be one, and I also was a PhD student, and I was a postdoc, and then I decided, so what to do next, and then I started a new point in my career here at the project management Jülich, but whatever I did, I think what is really important is that you do something out of your passion. So if you have an idea, if you're convinced of something, then you should follow this. And I think bioeconomy is something that has a future, and it is something for good. And I think it's really something that one should follow. So if you're into research and on the other hand are somehow fascinated by bioeconomy and what it could contribute to, then this is really a good combination that for yourself to develop yourself on. So my point would be, yeah, if you do bioeconomy and if you're a researcher and you have a kind of passion for the topic and for doing research as such, you're on a good track.
Okay, so dedication makes it all, and there's an open horizon for these people. Yeah. Patrick and Bernhard, would you possibly have a kind of takeaway message for our audience? Patrick,
yeah,
let me start with you.
That bioeconomy is a quite big field of basic and applied research, as well as technology transfer from university in the industry, and Germany provides a lot of funding instruments in this field, and let me say that you are all invited to take part of this innovative process.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you. Bernhard, may we turn to you?
Yeah. Yeah. In general, we are now at the point where we have to transform our industry into a bio-based industry, and bioeconomy is actually the field to work in. So it is really interdisciplinary. You can work with loads of different people from different fields, and it really has an impact.
Fernanda, what was your passion, so to say? Why were you impassionate to do what you are currently doing at the ZEF at the University of Bonn?
I think we are, my generation is passionate about trying to find ways of mitigating climate change effects, right? And I think that's very beautiful to see this whole movement of young people thinking about this. So I think bioeconomy is a very practical way of implementing solutions that can mitigate this climate change impact. It's more than replacing fossil fuel. It's more than this substitution. It has a potential of finding solutions that goes beyond, and that we will see in the future as the new normal. And then it will ideally bring benefits for sustainability for the society, and also emitting less. So I think that's the main goal. We need a society that will emit less, and bioeconomy is the how we are going to do that. Is the methodology on how we are going to achieve this society.
That's a very, very good final remark, and maybe motivating for people who are thinking about whether bioeconomy or bioeconomy in Germany with a research project with a PhD might be an option for them. So I may have just some more technical information for our audience. This recording or the online talk will be recorded, and it will be available shortly on the Research in Germany website. So if you want to recap on something or share it with your network, then please do so. We will also provide a link containing the links mentioned in the online talk. The link to our website will be sent to you via email. So because you have registered for this online talk, so we will give you some information making use of this route. And with a view to sharpen our activities and to focus on the needs of our audience, we would also like you to take part in our feedback questionnaire, which we will provide at the end of this talk. So please do participate in the short survey, as we want to be better and provide more adequate information to our public. So thank you very much to our panelists for the time which you have spent with us today. We wish you good luck, Merry Christmas, so to say. Stay healthy and be as related to the topic of bioeconomy as you have just explained to us and our audience. And towards our audience, I would like to say thank you for watching and listening. And we certainly hope that we could answer at least some questions which came up. And please be also aware of the online talks which I've just mentioned at the beginning. 3 more topics to come. Tomorrow, departmental research. On Wednesday, women in science. And on Thursday, doing research in the field of humanities will be number 4 in our sequence of December online talks. We have also one in June, which some of you may have watched as well. So thank you very much for being with us today, and all the best. Stay healthy and take care. Bye-bye.